Good day friends, in this CEC Gurukul lecture series, today I will be talking of contract costing. As you are aware, there are different methods of costing. In our previous discussion, we discussed unit or output costing. In this lecture, we will discuss about contract costing, which is also known as terminal costing. It is also a variant of job costing, right? So what is contract costing? Where does the contract costing applies? Contract, I would say, is a big job in which work is done at the site and not in the factory premises. You must have noticed that while you prepare dams, bridges, long roads, highways, right? These are here in these type of businesses we use contract costing. The contract is being undertaken at a place, at a site where the work is being undertaken, right? So thus in this method of costing, each contract is a cost unit, means each of the work which you have undertaken is being considered as a cost unit, or you may call it a cost object, and an account is opened for each contract in the books of the contractor to ascertain profit and loss thereon. Under this system of costing, there are two parties. One is called contractor, other is called contractee. Contractee is the one who assigns the contract, who gives the contract, and the contractor is the one who works, who performs who undertakes to do the job. Like for example, National Highway Authority of India is a government sector, right? So it gives a contract of, or it opens a tender for construction of 100 kilometers of road on a highway, right? So the contractee in this case is National Highway Authority of India, and the company which takes the contract will perform the duty or will do the job of making this 100 kilometer of highway. So that party is called contractor. So there are two parties. Contractee is the one who gives the contract, and the contractor is the one who undertakes or who performs the job. So, and each of the job, as I said, if you are constructing a dam, I suppose, dam cost thousands of rupees, thousands and thousands and thousands of crores of rupees, right? So each dam is a cost object, or I may call it a cost unit. So it will calculate how much cost is being incurred in the construction of a dam. So this is the basically nature of contract costing. Contract costing is applicable, like I said also just now, in building construction, road construction, bridge construction, shipbuilding. A special type of ship is being built, right? So the company takes a contract of preparing the ship of a particular design, particular parameter, right? So that shipbuilding is an example of contract costing. Most of the construction works which you see around you, right? Construction of flyovers, construction of bridges, dams, long roads, even I would say not long, only long roads, even short roads, I mean roads of few kilometers, they are all being undertaken. The costing methods which we use is called contract costing. So what's special features of these, right? So contracts are generally of large size, and therefore a contractor usually carries out a small number of contracts at a particular point of time. There is not a rule as such that contractor takes a small number of jobs, but normally what you observe is that these contracts, whenever the word contract comes in, and by and large in our mind a picture emerges that the contracts of a large amount, significant amount, which take years in completion, like you have taken a contract of constructing a flyover in a metro city, right? So it takes minimally 2-3 years to construct a flyover in a metro city, and that costs thousands of crores of rupees. So when normally these contracts are of large amount and of long duration, so the contractor takes a few jobs. Well, all it depends on the size of the company. Companies like Larsen & Toubro, which is a large conglomerate and large company of infrastructure sector, that takes various contracts simultaneously, right? So this is one. Contractor generally takes more than a year to complete, right? So these contracts are normally long duration, so it takes more than a year. Again, not a rule, but normally these contracts takes long period of time, right? All the cost, material cost, labor cost, direct expenses like electricity, telephone, insurance, most of these expenses under the contract costing is of direct nature. only a few expenses I will discuss later on, right. These are of indirect nature. So, all these direct costs are being directly charged to that contract only. Especially some contractor may be employed for say electricity fitting, welding work, glass works. If you undertake to complete a particular work, that is a contract, sometime you appoint small subcontractors for completing some small jobs. Say for example, electricity fitting is not your domain area, so you assign this electricity fitting job to somebody else. You assign all welding works or a particular amount of welding works to one subcontractor, right. All the glass work you assign to one subcontractor. So there may be subcontractors which you assign while performing that contract, but that all parts and the parcel of that contract only. And plant and equipment may be purchased, means every time when you take a contract, and normally when you take a contract of a very large amount or in a very long duration, so now you purchase separate plant and machinery for that, because all the plant and machinery which you have in your business, they are already engaged on in some other sites, right. So you may purchase some new plants and machinery for that contract itself, right. Payment by the contractee are made at various stages of completion of the contract based on the architect certificate for the completion stage. What it means is that since the amount involved is huge, is a large amount and a long duration, so what the contractee or what the contractor do is, it all depends on the terms and agreement, terms of contract and the agreement between the contractor and the contractee, that the contractor complete a particular stage or do a particular amount of job, say 40% of the job or 30% of the job. As soon as the 30% of the job is being completed, it will ask the contractee to check the work undertaken, and contractee assigned a architect. This architect is being appointed by the contractee. The contractee's architect will see that what is the stage of completion of the work. So if it is verifies that okay, the work has been completed up to the 30%, so part of the 30% work, if the amount is of say the contract is of 100 crore rupees, so 30% means 30 crore rupees worth of work has been completed. So the contractee will keep some retention money, right. Retention means it is not going to pay if the contractor has completed the job of 30 crore rupees, the contractee is not going to pay 30 crore rupees in full. Say it all again depends on the terms of contract between the contractor and the contractee, that every time a percentage of work is being completed, 90% of it will be paid or 80% of it will. This 20% which is remaining is called retention money. So 80% of 30 crore rupees, that is 24 crore rupees, say for example, is merely an example, 24 crore rupees will be paid by the contractee to the contractor, so that there is no much financial strain on the contractor. It all depends on the terms and conditions. So, and the other feature of the contract account may be that penalty may be incurred by the contractor for failing to complete the work within the agreed period. Like suppose the contract, the National Highway Authority of India, the Government of India undertaking gives the contract to a particular contractor for preparing this 100-kilometer road, right, and the time period is X period. Suppose the contractor does not complete the job in the X period and there is no certain condition which are beyond the control of the contractor, then the contractor has to pay certain penalty. This may be the clause that may be added, so that the only idea is so that the contractor completes the job. Sometimes it so happens that contractor takes the contract but because of one reason or other they don't fulfill their responsibility in time. So in order to avoid that, what the contractee can do is that it can put a penalty clause in it, and that if the contractor fails to complete the work within the stipulated time, then the penalty may be imposed. Again, depends on the terms and condition of the contract. So these are the broad features of the contract accounting or contract costing, you may say. So now let's very briefly discuss about what is the difference between the contract costing and the job costing, right. So there is no hard and fast thin line on the base of this distinction can be made, but when we generalize it, these can be the few distinction between the job costing and the contract costing. As I said, contract costing is very much like a job costing. So, but there is a difference between the job costing and the contract costing. You may argue that we may do it for our own convenience purposes. So, contract is generally big while job is small. That is, contract is normally of a large amount of a long duration of time, right? Job is a small. It is well said, a job is a small contract and a contract is a big job. The number of jobs undertaken at a time are usually large as compared to the number of contracts, because contracts are generally much bigger in size. Because as when we discussed about the features of the contract costing, I was saying that normally a contractor undertakes a few contracts at one point of time. But since the jobs are of small amount and a small duration, so a person or a company, a firm which is doing job work, normally they take many jobs at simultaneously same time. So, in contract costing, most of the costs are chargeable direct to the contract account, means these are of large amount, long duration. So, most of the costs are being debited directly into the contract account, because these are directly assigned to the contract. Most of the expenses are directly related to the contract. But under the job costing, the cost allocation to such an extent is not possible, because say most of the jobs is being undertaken within the, as we will discuss some few points, this point will become very clear to you. Let me discuss those points, then I will come to this point. Allocation and apportionment of overhead cost is simpler in contract costing as compared to the job costing. As I was saying, that under the contract costing, most of the expenses are of direct nature, in the sense that can be directly charged to the contract. So, allocation becomes easy. Apportionment is only a few, like head office expenses. So, these head office expenses, or if there is a particular type of plant and machinery which is used sometime in a particular contract, so that amount, that expense is being apportioned, but mostly by and large it is being allocated. But under the job costing, say for example, if you have a printing press and if you have an offset press, in-house you do all the work and you do the job of various contractors who brings the job before you. So, sometime you are printing of one material, the other time you are printing other material. So, this work you are taking on a job basis. All this work is being undertaken in-house. So, most of the expenses or most of the businesses or different jobs takes place simultaneously, right. So, most of the expenses are apportioned, distributed amongst different jobs. Suppose there is a main skilled employee, or you may say production manager. Production manager is undertaking the various jobs simultaneously. So, the salary of the production manager will be apportioned amongst different jobs that you have undertaken. So, in the job costing, most of the expenses are being apportioned, right. But under the contract costing, most of the expenses are allocated and a few are being apportioned. So, jobs are usually carried out within the factory premises, this I have already explained, while contract work is done at the site, right. So, contract is being taken outside, jobs are being performed in-house only, right. Now, this is basically the difference between job costing and the contract costing. Now, let me talk of one feature of the contract costing, that is called cost plus contracts. Cost plus contract is a contract in which the contract price is ascertained by adding a specific amount of percentage of profit to cost allowed in the contract. What happens? Sometime when it is difficult to calculate the cost, either because the prices are fluctuating, the raw material cost, the labor cost and other costs are fluctuating, or it is difficult to find out what exactly is the job, what exactly is the work involved, right, or it is the work is of unique nature. In that case, what we do is, what the agreement can be is that the agreement may be that whatever the cost that is being incurred by the contractor and which are the costs which are allowed, which will be allowed by the contractee, this is being determined in advance, right, and at what price, this is also being determined in advance, right. So, all those costs which are allowed plus at a particular price, right. So, all these costs are being added, that is being incurred by the contractor, right. So, this type of contract terms agreed upon in those cases where it is not possible to complete the cost in advance with a reasonable degree of accuracy, means it is very difficult to find out what will be the contract amount, what is the contract amount involved due to unstable condition of market price, labors, etc., or where the work itself is not very sure, means what work may increase or work may decrease, right. So, this contract costing is used. So, contractee undertakes to reimburse the actual cost of contract plus a stipulated profit. This stipulated profit means whatever the cost that is being allowed by the contractee plus a stipulated profit. This is called cost plus contract. What will be that stipulated profit? This stipulated profit may be a lump sum money, like if the cost incurred is 10 crore rupees, say 1 crore rupees profit is being will be given. Whatever the cost, if it is 10 crore or 11 crore rupees, 1 crore will be the profit that will be given by the contractee to the contractor. So, it may be lump sum money or it may be on actual cost plus percentage basis. So, whatever the cost is, on that cost you add up some profit, say 10%, 5%, 15%, and that will be the contract amount that will be paid by the contractee. So, the profit to be added to the cost may be either a fixed amount, that is called lump sum money, or a specific percentage of cost. As I just said, 5%, 10%, 15%, whatever the cost is, you add up that total cost plus the percentage of profit, right. The item of cost to be included for the purpose of determining contract price are broadly agreed upon in the advance, means which cost you will take while determining the total cost of the project or total cost of the contract. These are being included, that these are the various heads under which of which will take the cost, right. The accounts of the contractor are usually subject to audit by the contractee, because see, sometime the contractor may escalate the cost, right, unnecessarily, or it may escalate the quantity, right. So, the contractee, the auditor appointed by the contractee can always audit the accounts of the contractor in order to verify, in order to justify, in order to see that whether the cost that is being shown, whether the quantity that is being shown in the contract is of right amount, right. So, this is basically they have the right to audit the accounts, that is there is again this will be written in the clause itself, that is the contract part. So, cost plus contracts are usually entered into for executing special types of works like construction of dams, powerhouses, newly designed ships, etc., where cost escalation is difficult. So, this is called cost plus contract, means a cost, whatever the cost that is being incurred by the contractor, plus a percentage of profit on cost, or a fixed lump sum money is being given by the contractor to the contractor as profit, that is called cost plus contract. This one type of contract that is called cost plus contract. In the contract costing itself, there may be a escalation clause. What is this escalation? I will put it escalation clause or de-escalation clause, right? Escalation or de-escalation clause. It may be escalation, it may be de-escalation. Sometime when is a situation comes when the material prices are increasing or the labor costs are going up, inflation is taking place in the country. You are taking a contract of preparing a dam which will take 7 years, 8 years to complete, right, and the cost is in thousands and thousands of crores of rupees. And in the construction of the dam, the most of the cost is in form of labor, in form of cement, in form of steel. And steel being an international commodity, the prices of steel determines upon or depends on the global prices of steel, right. So, Indian manufacturer cannot determine the price of steel, it is a global commodity, and which is the prices are being determined globally. Means the point I am trying to make is that these prices fluctuates, and if the inflation takes place in the economy, the minimum wages also increases. In the construction of a dam, a very large number of labor works, right. So, if there is an increase in the labor cost, the minimum wage act, obviously the contractor will have to increase the wages of the workers also. So, that will affect directly to the cost of the construction of that dam. So, in order to avoid this loss, if there is an increase in the prices of the material or the labor cost, an escalation clause may be entered into the agreement between the contractor and the contractee. So, what is this escalation clause? That if the cost of material or the labor or whatever the terms and conditions are increases beyond a particular percentage, beyond a particular agreed price, then the contractor is entitled to increase the price of the contract. So, escalation clause is often provided in contracts to cover any likely changes in the prices or utilization of material and labor. Thus, a contractor is entitled to suitably enhance the contract price if the cost rises beyond a given percentage. Like say, for example, the cost of cement per bag is 350 rupees. So, suppose if it cost increases up to 5%, the escalation clause will, I am just giving an example, will not be applicable. But if this cement prices increases beyond 5% of 350, then the escalation clause will come into the picture, right. So, if the cement prices goes up because thousands and thousands of tons of cement is being used in the construction of a dam, right. So, the contractor has a right to increase the contract price which the contractor has already agreed upon. So, objective of this clause is to safeguard the interest of the contractor against the unfavorable change in cost, that is increase in the cost of the material or the labor cost. As the escalation clause, there can be a de-escalation clause also, means contractor also want to safeguard himself or herself, or the company want to safeguard itself, the company which is giving the contract, right. So, escalation clause is of particular importance where the prices of material and labor are anticipated to increase, or where the quantity of material labor time cannot be accurately estimated. Just as an escalation clause safeguard the interest of the contractor by upward revision of the contract price, similarly a de-escalation clause may be inserted to look after the interest of the contractee, as I just said, by providing downward revision of the contract price in the event of the cost going down beyond an agreed level. In just I said, like say for example 350 rupees per cement bag is the agreed price. If it increases more than 5%, the escalation clause will be application. If it reduces by more than 5%, that is if the price of cement bag, one per each bag of a particular size, a particular weight, say 40 kg or 30 kg, right, decreases beyond 5% of 350, then de-escalation clause will be applicable. So, in this manner, in this contract costing, while making the contract between the contractor and the contractee, there can be escalation clause or de-escalation clause can be put in the contract. This we should, because especially when if you are undertaking a large contract, you must keep in mind, because the prices may fluctuate, the labor cost may fluctuate, and especially if the size of the contract is big and the duration is long. So, now after discussing this, what is this contract costing, let me quickly talk of a few points on contract costing procedure, that is how you prepare contract costing. In this lecture, we are making a theoretical framework of contract costing, that how we calculate the cost under the contract costing. So, what we do in the contract costing is a main account is called contract account, right. So, contract account is being prepared, each contract is allotted a distinct number and a separate account is opened for each contract, right. So, supposing a contractor is making, a company is making 4 flyovers in Delhi or any metro city, Mumbai, Chennai, any city, right. So, there are 4 projects that is undergoing. For each of the project, for each of the contract, a contract account will be prepared. All the material that you purchase for the construction of a particular flyover, right. I am saying, for example, I am taking the example of a flyover, that there are 4 flyovers, I am talking of a flyover. When you are constructing a flyover, all the material that you purchased for the plant, for the construction of that a flyover, all the material and the plants that are being exclusively purchased for the construction of that flyover will be directly charged to the contract of a flyover. That is, when material, plant or other items are transferred from the contract account is crediting that. This is basically transfer. That is, I am talking of the point that all the cost that is being incurred, or all the material, labor and the plant that is being purchased for that is being charged or that is being debited to that contract. If supposing the material is being transferred from this contract to another contract, supposing 500 bags of cements are lying and the project B or the flyover B requires immediate requirement of cement, and it will take some time in fetching the cement or bringing the cement from the factory. So 2 days will be so that the work is not being held up. So the cement bags are being transferred from flyover A to flyover 2, or say from work 1 to B. So that material cost or the plant that is being transferred, right? So I will take material only here. The material cost will be credited to that plant account, right? So the amount of material that is being transferred from this project to another project, that will be credited to that account. And as I said, all direct cost means it may be material cost, it may be labor cost, it may be expenses, depreciation of the plant. All these are being debited to the plant account. So in this manner, and we will prepare the contract account. We will continue to discuss we will take this discussion further forward, and we will continue to discuss that how the contract cost is being prepared. In today's lecture, what I have done is I have given you the broad framework of what this contract costing is, how it is different from the job costing, right? What is escalation clause, what is cost plus contract, and how you prepared. We have just initiated discussion. I'll recapitulate in a discussion that how you calculate cost under the contract costing. Thank you very much.